All right, this is Jared Galliano. I'm here with George Pikounis. We are sitting down doing another coffee talk. We're talking about opportunities today in the financial world. What is an opportunity and what's missing an opportunity? So we're going to talk about a little bit of both. Welcome, George.
Thanks, Gerrod. Glad to be here again.
Awesome. First talking point of the opportunities talk. Most people really like to know about this one because most people start with this. It's their 401k. Okay, so when you're just starting out, you're just getting into the workplace, a lot of people say, should I contribute? Should I match? What's the opportunity of taking advantage and not that maybe some people don't think about, maybe some of the stuff past the surface level?
So there's a couple things, especially when you're just starting out. A lot of companies these days offer a match. So I'm a big fan of free stuff, and I usually tell people just from a base level, get your free money, right? So with 401ks, the employer will contribute it based off of X percent. They might match you dollar for dollar up to, let's just say, 5%. Well, to me, that's 5% free money. Now, one of the common pushbacks I get is, well, I can't afford to do that.
Right.
I'm 22, 23 years old. I just graduated college. Where am I going to find the money for that? Well, instead of utilizing Roth, I know we've talked about this in another segment where you can use Roth, where it's after-tax dollars. You can contribute pre-tax, which is going to come out of your gross income as opposed to your net when you see it on your paycheck.
Right.
And so you're not really going to feel it. I know it's hard to believe when people sit there and do the math, and I praise them for doing the math, 5% of whatever their salary is, and where am I going to find the money for this? But rarely do you actually feel it in your paycheck, and at the same time, you're getting the match from your employer. So all of a sudden, you turn that 5% essentially into 10% without even really feeling it. And I think when we look at longevity of just retirement plans, and life is constantly increasing right now on an annual basis, that's going to benefit you in the long run, right? Like, people are living longer, so we have to be focused on that. And I think that's one of the biggest advantages of a 401k is just starting to build that nest egg, so to speak.
I think that's a great starting point. We start there and we say, what else? When people don't always think about is the taxes, like you said, the more you contribute to the plan, the less your taxable income is for that year. So if you look at a person starting to make a little more, maybe getting a couple of raises, man, that's a big tax bracket jump when you go from that 12% to the next one is 22. That's a 10% difference right there. So you're talking about every dollar you pull out after that 12% bracket, that's another 10% you're getting taxed. Or you could put it in the plan, not pay the taxes on it, save that 10%, pull it out later in life when you're not working and you're not making all that income. You're back at the 12 maybe. So it's a tax play in the current, and it's a take care of yourself for later play. Which is why we say, guys, look, if all you can do is the match when you're just getting started, well, that's fine. Get started.
Yeah, so get the free money.
But if you're thinking, oh, I'm just going to do the match because, I don't really feel comfortable, maybe sit down with someone, maybe do a little more thinking about it because you might be hurting yourself on the tax side, not just the opportunity side of the growth. So speaking of taxes, next we look at the Trump tax cuts. Current tax code, I believe we're going from like 10, 12, 22, 24, nice deductions right now. People generally happy with the current tax code. What's going to change in 2025 when this automatically just sunsets unless they pass it? What are people looking at in terms of the changes?
You're probably on average looking at around a 3 to 4% increase.
That's probably what I heard, yeah.
Which, again, may not seem like much, but we work with numbers on a daily basis when it comes to creating a long-term plan. So it's like 3 to 4% annually compounded adds up, and we can show you that in a number of ways over a 30-year period. And we don't know how long things will potentially last, but we know right now what we have is we have a few years to plan for that potentially. So it's like, what can we be doing now to potentially take advantage of, like you said, the opportunities we have before things do change. And I think that, going back to even 401k stuff, like the increases that we have, for this year, you can put another $2,000 in. It's up to $22,500 now for the max. And then the catch up increases now $7,500. So it's like just taking advantage of things to potentially provide us, with some tax alleviation in the next couple of years. So I just think, again, being aware of the opportunities, knowing, at least being knowledgeable of them, so you know what you can take advantage of.
No, that's a great example. And we think about the whole point of this segment, we're saying these are opportunities that only last while they're here. The Trump tax cuts are great because in 2026 that opportunity is gone. So if you have a potential chance to do a conversion at a lower rate today, if you have a chance to maybe take some money out of just money that you need, and you can take it out of that lower rate, and in a few years it's going to be a higher rate, you better do it. And you're not going to know about all these opportunities unless you're really diligent, because there's always little nuances, little changes that we keep up with because we work in this world. But we say, look, make sure you're keeping up to, and make sure you're getting the information, because if you're not, then you're going to miss out on it. All right. So next up, we have we look at the future tax increases. Think about this. You're going to do your income at 72 from your IRAs, because the government says you have to take your RMDs at 72, now 73, in the future 75. All right. So you don't have a choice in the future to take that money once you're a certain age. And we know that the tax brackets are going to go up. Your actual deduction's going to go down. That's part of the law that's going to change too. So all bad stuff, what can you do today to maybe alleviate that?
And one thing you mentioned, previously was the Roth conversions, right? Like, again, we know taxes are probably going to be an average of 3 to 4% higher. So to me, that means that right now we have a 3 to 4% buffer for ourselves to take advantage of. So doing a Roth conversion now, in theory, will save us a few percentage in the long run, right? Because if I convert now, it'll be 3% lower than when I convert in 2026, for example, right? So that's a 3% savings, right? Mathematically, that's the number. We know that's what we can take advantage of in terms of the conversions there. Even more so, like, that helps us with RMDs, because whatever we have in the Roth, it's not going to have a required minimum associated with it. So now we've potentially created ourselves even more of a tax advantage and opportunity in the future.
And guys, when you think about all this, nobody's going to ever make you do a Roth conversion. Nobody's going to ever make you take a contribution early. But what you want to know is, you want to know the math behind why you might want to, why you want to think about it, why you want to start considering it, because once again, all an opportunity that goes away at a certain point. If you wait and you wait and you wait, well, that's it. Maybe you have a new opportunity, but that old one's not here anymore. Tax efficiency, that's kind of where all this ties together. This is a big one that people really seem to lately especially want to know about. Maybe it's because inflation's so high that every little dollar counts. In our world, we always try to make every little dollar count, but we're starting to see people really trying to be efficient with their taxes in terms of their income in the future and in retirement. What's that mean to be tax efficient?
And, just to jump on top of that for a second, it's like, again, we look at every dollar is important, but when you have things like inflation pressing you as a consumer, now all of a sudden you do start to notice it more on a daily basis, right? So that has people starting to think, like, where can I be saving money? What can I be doing differently? Efficiency itself could be a number of different things for an individual. And that's why when we look at taxes, it's based on the individual, right? When we look at the broader perspective, I mean, yes, we know what the tax brackets are, but we don't know where everyone falls. So efficiency means, one thing to someone that has ultra high net worth compared to someone that might just be starting out. We talked about the 22-year-old just graduated college contributing to their 401k. They're going to have some tax efficiency there too by contributing, right? Without even realizing they could potentially have more in their pockets, if they're using pre-tax, or if they're doing Roth, they have tax efficiency down the line, right? So the efficiency piece is one where we can look at up front. And so we could say, hey, this could benefit you now versus later, and vice versa. And I think that's what we tend to try to look at. And, you mentioned we're not here to force people to do things, but from an efficiency standpoint, we can look at it year to year. And, with the increases coming back in the next couple of years for the taxes, it's like we know where we could be efficient now. So I think, hopefully that answers your question there. I'm happy
it
to
does.
build on anything.
And I think everyone's heard of this. You want to have multiple buckets. Everybody's heard a different version of that, and you can't go back in time and create the buckets. When you're younger, you can build the buckets up so you can have some pre-tax, some Roth, some after-tax. When you have multiple choices, it's as simple as every year you can choose what's the best choice. If we need income, do I want to pull it from this one, or this one? That gives you the ability to maybe choose. So the earlier in life you kind of build the different buckets up, the more options you have, the more opportunities you have to be aggressive with your tax savings, to say this is what I want to pay in taxes, and I'm going to be able to pull from the right buckets at the right time. The later you are in life, that's when you have to kind of say, okay, this is what I have. What can I control at this point? That's when you really need to know your brackets. You really need to know how much your deduction is going to be, what changes in the tax code are coming. Because at that point, you can't really control as much, especially when you're taking your RMDs, your Social Security. If you have a pension, it's all active. You can't go
capital gains too.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
another thing in retirement. And we, not to interject, but it's like we work with clients like, oh, I can't afford to sell this stock because of the gain.
Right.
But from a tax efficiency standpoint, it's like, well, let's look at your tax bracket. A lot of clients don't even realize that they fall in the 0% capital gains, long-term capital gains because of their income. They say, oh, well, I'm going to pay 15% minimum. But it's like once we look at the actual income coming in, it's like they may actually qualify for the 0% bracket for that.
And take note of that, audience. This is an opportunity. Once again, we're talking about opportunities. Most people don't know that in certain income situations, you can take a long-term capital gain, not a giant one, but a smaller one, at 0%. So if you have some company stock and if you're scared to sell it because it's really appreciated, well, you probably can't sell the whole thing if it's all taxable, but maybe you can take off a piece. How do you know? Bring in your statement, bring in your tax return from last year, and we can actually plug it into software that takes the guessing out and says, well, this is what your capital gain will be. That way we can, once again, take advantage of the opportunities, make better decisions, and at least give you the information to where okay, if I do this, this, and this, well, guess what? I'm being a little more tax efficient. You're not going to become a millionaire overnight being tax efficient, but $6,000-7,000 a year for 10 years.
You might stay a millionaire.
Yeah, you might stay a millionaire, exactly. So, this has been fun, George. Thanks for joining us, talking about opportunities with taxes and with different things coming up with the Trump tax cuts. This has been Gerrod Galliano, George Pikounis, Coffee Talk. Thanks for being here.